Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Hub Podcast. My name is Eric Berger, Director of Marketing for Better Good, the maker of VolunteerHub. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by Tashawn Deville, the Director of Education and Community Involvement at Tacoma Art Museum. Tashawn and her team are doing incredible work in the community. We're going to hear a little bit more about that today, and then also dive into how they're using VolunteerHub to recruit, engage, and manage volunteers. Hey, Tashawn, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time out of your, I know it's busy schedule to talk to me today.
Of course. I was glad to do it.
So to get things started, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you and your role at Tacoma Art Museum. Do you mind telling me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my role is I am the Director of Education and Community Involvement for the Tacoma Art Museum. And so essentially I oversee all of our educational as well as community involved programming that we have both on and off site for the museum.
So let's talk a little bit about the museum. What is your mission and vision?
At the Tacoma Art Museum, our mission is to transform communities by sharing art that inspires broader perspectives and cultivates a compassionate future. And our vision is to defy expectations, advance community voices, and expand avenues of engagement and learning. And I think that's so important really in today's world where social connection, critical thinking, and empathy are just so much more important than ever. I think our mission really serves both as a cultural and as a civic call to action, and using art to invite us to really slow down, maybe look a little bit closer, and consider the perspectives of others. At TAM, we really have a big regional focus, not only on the artwork, but on the art of storytelling through our artwork. And so really using that as an opportunity to build those bridges and spark dialogue across our communities.
That really is such an amazing mission, and I would really love to hear how important volunteers are in regards to achieving it.
Yeah, volunteers at the Tacoma Art Museum are, and I know it sounds cliche to say, but in a lot of ways, the backbone of what we do. I mean, I am a team of 3 individuals in total, so myself included, and we're responsible for over 10 different programs that can serve anywhere to 3,000 to 5,000 people within a given year. And so it takes a lot of manpower to ensure that we are actively are active participants within our community by providing art making opportunities, tabling opportunities, and gallery opportunities, community showcases. And so our volunteers really serve as event support leads. They'll serve as community docents. They will support with school tours and the art making components that go into that. They help to ensure that our free community art making space is always stocked and clean and ready for individuals of all ages to come in and enjoy those resources that we have to offer to the community. And so, yeah, really saying like, we couldn't do what we do without the generous giving of our community members.
And you did say it was 3 of you running 10 programs, right?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of responsibility. So in order to have enough manpower for those 10 programs, how many volunteers do you work with each year?
It'll be anywhere between 20 to 50 volunteers annually. Some of them, I would say, could be considered seasonal. We have a lot of programming that ramps up within the summer, fall time. But I would say a regular base of about 20.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
But I would say a regular base of about 20 to 25, but annually I'd say about 50.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about how you're managing those volunteers with VolunteerHub. Can you talk a little bit about the inefficiencies that you faced before implementing VolunteerHub software?
Yeah, I think before Volunteer Hub, we really relied heavily on spreadsheets and emails and a lot of manual tracking. processes that I know a lot of organizations typically use when they don't have any sort of management system. And with that, I think you get a lot of communication lags, schedule confusion, location confusion. I think it's really hard to cultivate strong relationships with volunteers that can see a long-term future when there's just so many kind of hiccups that can occur within communication. And so I think it was a project that wasn't as time efficient as we'd hoped it would be, and just not as scalable. Like, it was also hard to manage a large volunteer base when you have so many people you have to individually contact and communicate with.
And I know learning any new system is always difficult. Can you talk a little bit about your experience as far as implementation, training, support? Was there anything that stands out there?
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, I was pleasantly surprised with the experience I was able to have with VolunteerHub's implementation team. They were very knowledgeable. As I said, we had actually had a volunteer program at one point, and it was dissolved due to the pandemic and other institutional reasons. And so it was actually a resurgence of something that we had. And so it was so great that they were able to even give me like archival data from our past experience with VolunteerHub, and we were able to use that to kind of help guide and spearhead the iteration that we have currently. But it felt like a seamless process, and it felt like you guys were with us the whole way through, from start to finish, always there to answer questions, always there to really make sure that the product that we were getting was going to meet our needs.
So I'd love to dig into that just a little bit more. What made VolunteerHub the right choice when you were deciding whether to come back to it or not? And did you look at any other volunteer management softwares before making that decision?
Well, I think part of it was actually that I utilized VolunteerHub at another organization that I worked at. And so when the opportunity around reigniting our volunteer program came around, I kind of had it as a no-brainer in my mind, one, because of my own previous experience with it. And then coupled with the fact that it had been a system that we used before, we definitely did our due diligence to price check within the market and see what other options were out there. But I think, as I said before, our prior experience institutionally, my prior experience personally, and then just the overall kind of effectiveness of the product itself compared with others in the market.
That's great to hear that you have confidence in the software. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Talking about VolunteerHub a little bit more, what features stand out the most?
Out of all of the features, I would say I just love how detailed in which you can get with creating events and, like I said, streamlining communication around them. I mean, it has the built-in features for a confirmation message, a follow-up email, a reminder email. If I needed to put in any specific location, as I said, we are a museum. However, our reach goes far beyond our museum doors. And so sometimes there might be a program, say, at a local elementary school, like being able to just go down to very specific information is really, really helpful.
What has the adoption been like for volunteers using the system?
Volunteers have actually been working really well with the system. I think with us having a pretty large population, especially of older individuals that are interested in volunteering with us, I mean, I think access to technology and intuitive around using that was always something that we were considering. And so, it was a concern of ours to say, like, are they going to take to a system that's completely automatic when we've been using a more kind of email-centered way of communicating? But I think
this audio was created with podcastle.ai.
centered way of communicating. But I think, especially with all of the health information that you all provide, it was really easy for me to create onboarding material that walked individuals through and then also assisted them as they encountered any problems. And so far, I think the people love it. They love using it. They love that all of the opportunities are available to them and that they can sign up and or cancel if needed. It's a really nice, robust system.
I love to hear that about senior volunteers and their
Yeah.
ability to adopt technology, because I know that's definitely a challenge at times. So it's awesome to hear that your senior volunteers are able to use VolunteerHub and comfortable using it. So I just have a couple more questions, and the first one being, do you feel like VolunteerHub is delivering your organization a strong return on investment based on the problems that you're using the software to solve?
Yeah, I mean, I would say when you're a team as small as ours, you kind of work with the idea and mindset that in lieu of people, you have systems. And so in lieu of the staff we aren't able to hire that could manually do all of these things as well as support the volunteers, it's definitely a return on their investment in the sense of it helps us maintain a steady volunteer base that helps us meet our overall mission and goals. And so I would say there is an incredible return on investment from my perspective.
And then, do you have any long-term goals for using VolunteerHub? Are there any new ways that you're thinking about applying the software as your program grows and evolves?
Yeah, as I said, right now we kind of just utilize it for volunteers. However, I think the ways in which it's set up is definitely useful for other applications that we're interested in moving towards, such as internships, or we often have community advisory groups that need to meet at a regular time and they're volunteering and we want to track how much time a given person has volunteered to a specific initiative. So yeah, I think there's a few different ways we're thinking of using it creatively, but yeah, to say that it has a wide range of application in my opinion.
That's really cool to hear that you foresee new use cases with the software. So I want to end the conversation talking about Tacoma Art Museum. Can you talk about how somebody can volunteer with the organization?
Yeah, thanks to Volunteer Hub, it's actually incredibly user friendly. And so an individual would just go to our website, tacomaartmuseum.org, and they would go to our support section, and under support, there's a tab that says Become a Volunteer. From there, they are provided with a brief kind of rundown of what they can expect, including the application, an in-person interview, and then an orientation. And so all of which they can sign up with following them completing their registration within Volunteer Hub.
Sounds like it's really easy to get involved. So just to wrap things up, I just want to thank you again for taking the time out of your busy day to speak with me and talk to me a little bit about how your small team is using VolunteerHub to manage your programs. I have really enjoyed the conversation.
Yes, as did I. Thank you so much for having me again.